Hey everybody, Theta here, back with another stone-faced reactions. Joined today again by Lessons Learned, here for another episode of Macross. So it's literally just been a day since the last two reactions that we've done. Have you any further thoughts since the last time?
I think thinking back, I the thing that really stuck to me was the sort of anti-war, peaceful villagers trying to live a simple life versus the sophisticated outsiders with all the technology and war and all that. And that I think looking back, because the first time I watched it was all about the dogfights and the giant robots, but now I'm more like, okay, I've seen that before. Let's think about other things, and I think that's what's sticking with me. And I think that's going to be they're going to double down in the upcoming episodes. Like, yeah, no, this is the theme because there's always been the theme about Macross, right? And many Japanese anime, war is bad, right? And so that they're taking the angle of war represents the future, technology, and all that. That's war, and peace is a simple life out in the islands and the boonies somewhere. The simpler the better, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does seem to be a major theme in a lot of Japanese works. Even, I would say that Macross seems to pull a lot more action scenes. Well, I can't say that. Gundam is very guilty of it. But if you look at it, there's more, hey, cool action fighting, as you said, the plane scenes, than there is the message. But again, it's the opening. Who knows? I guess the first thing to do here is, sorry, as those of you who watch the show, not even Macross specifically, I mean the channel, tend to know that Griff tends to handle a lot of the things since I gave him the responsibility a long time ago, and thus haven't had anything to do with it myself. So sitting back into the control seat for a moment, first thing we ought to do is actually the recap. So last two episodes, UN fighter pilot Shin Kudo is shot down over the South Pacific island of Mayan during a conflict between the UN and anti-UN forces. He crash lands and encounters a native tribe led by a mysterious woman named Sarah Nome. The islanders worship a mythical bird human, and as Shin and Sarah interact, it becomes evident that the conflict is linked to ancient protoculture and advanced alien technology. So, we've already covered your thoughts, as again, I've done it in the wrong order, but whatever. I have, well, you know what? Instead of going to my little thoughts I've written down here, first let's do this thing. I'm dropping you a link. Take a look at that, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, this is,
Okay.
of course, just for the first two episodes. Me trying to figure out the relationships. Because what I typically do if I take the show seriously is you give you the visceral response while we're watching it, and then I'll go back and rewatch it a second time to get my actual thoughts down and figure out how people are tied together. Um, of course, I've boxed them in because these are the characters from 2008, and considering that this board might then further expand as
Oh
we
yeah.
move down the timeline. Um, to let you know, since it's the first time experiencing my little mayhem here, green is allies, red is enemies or possibly kills if it turns out to be a kill, and eventually there might be white lines in here which represents I don't know, or it's a complicated relationship. But yeah, do you have any? Oh, also blue means you're related or married.
So
So
blood
any,
relations, blue, yeah. Green allies, red enemies.
I might write it on the board. I typically have it written somewhere as like a little legend. But yeah, any commentary or things I may have missed or misinterpreted?
No, it seems pretty straightforward. We don't see a lot of Captain Robert, at least in the first two episodes, and I even didn't remember the character myself much.
He
And,
is during the meeting where she's talking about. I don't know if he's during the meeting with the B1 history secret super secret
Mhm.
thing, but she's
Yeah.
specifically there talking about oh god, what is it called? Chaos radar thing? But like
Yeah,
the entire naval boardroom is in there and she's giving the meeting
yeah.
and he is at the head of the table talking to everybody. That's the only reason I even recognized he was a person.
Yeah. I do notice that in the anime, for some reason, Ivanov doesn't have a nose. Everybody else has a nose. He doesn't have a nose.
I think that's just a very upshot.
Uh,
I also say I always take these pictures from behind the voice actors because it tends to have a good listing of all the characters that are in a show, and it
yeah,
fits well into the board motif. So I do not pick where the pictures
yeah,
come from or where in the timeline the pictures are.
yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but very
It's just
specifically, he shoots down or he gets into the fight with Roy here, and very
yeah, and
specifically, twice Shin gets into an air combat with Polanski, which I had to
yeah,
remember is also the Star Trek ship doctor. I don't know if it's spelled the same way, but that's literally the same name.
yeah. I think Ivanov is said to be basically a traitor. He used to be work for the UN, and he trained Fokker. He was
Yeah,
his
he very
trainer, and
specifically calls him the instructor
yeah, and
when
then
they're in
he
the fight.
turns around. So I guess in a time before the arrival of the ship, and once he arrived, he said, "Oh, I'm going to go and join the anti-UN side," and well, there we go.
Yeah, and very specifically, Polanski shoots down Shin the first time in the fighter jet, and then comes back and fights him again in episode 2. So the bars work both ways, for both episodes,
Yeah.
rather. And of
Where
course,
Chin
our
decides to be a
Marine.
moron. Yeah, yeah. Chin decides to be a moron. Decides to try to fight her with a damaged aircraft, but yeah, or mecha.
Yep,
So
and almost kills our girl down here. Alright, well, if there's no, you made a mistake or here's a line you should have missed, then that is our board
no,
as per episode 2.
yeah.
Well, you never know. One, you've seen the show, but
I
again, don't spoil for episode 3 connectors or whatnot, so you have to remember this is an episode 2 only.
yeah.
Then, in that case, I've actually written down a series of thoughts. As I said, I went back and rewatched and things that stuck out to me. I kept commenting about the fishman concept from the Mayans stories of the past, and I guess in this case, I mean Mayans as the people who live on the island of Mayan, and not the actual Mayans. Well, they literally said in the opening of episode 1 that in the beginning humans were fish, which itself fits into their story, also saying that the world was water and sky, since we've essentially said that these are basically ethnically Polynesians. I imagine the. By the way, I had to when I was rewatching us talking about it, and I'm like the Philip. Or you said the Philippines, and I'm like, what did I say? Basic.
You said a word that
The
now my
Greek
brain has.
islands. Yes, the
Yeah,
Greek islands.
that's
Basically,
yeah,
it's like neither of us said Polynesians, and I'm sure that's
yeah.
essentially what we were both thinking at the time. I imagine the creation myth harkens back to their days as a sailing people, in which case it would mirror a lot of creation myths involving the creation of the Earth as part of some mixture of ocean and sky. In this case, it's the creation myth for the species, and a bit of a warning about hubris, as we are apparently a spiteful creation of the Birdmen for mocking their lack of ability to go into the depths like we could as fishmen. No comment?
Well, I mean, it's part of the sort of like there's no real explanation so far of anything that happens. We know there's high technology. We know there's at least one character has a connection, maybe by blood, to this technology and can do weird things. That's how
Oh,
we left
believe me,
last
I
time.
cover that in a future thought. The blood
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. But aside from that,
Well, mind you,
I
this
mean,
is
it is
only
it.
connecting to their myth structure, not the
Yeah,
actual possible history.
yeah. So it's so far, even with people who are investigating this, it's deliberately kept vague. But it's an alien technology. They don't know how it works, so they're trying to figure it out. Whether they figure it out or not, we're about to see. But clearly, that part has been there's a connection. Whether how true we're supposed to take the legend or not, I don't know. I think it's supposed to be more allegory than anything else. But like something happened, and this is how they interpret it, rather
I
than
guess my problem with the allegory thing is that we've seen that they have like the two snakes intertwined description of DNA, and it's like, well, your allegory is just fucking true. So,
I mean, it doesn't mean it's false. It's just how they interpret things, right? In other words, it doesn't she when that's what Sarah Nome was talking, he doesn't really understand how drawn blood is. She just knows that it's connected to the Birdmen, it's connected to the Sea Peoples, and it's a sign of things going wrong. But she doesn't have a good understanding. So they're basically repeating this legend, but the legend itself doesn't give them understand that other than as a parable, right? High technology, people from the sky, the wind, it's bad. Stay away from those things, and you'll be fine, right?
All right, moving to the next thought. Do you think that Sarah and Shin? Oh, sorry. Do you think Sarah had Shin stay on purpose? We know that when she first encounters him, she tells him how to get away from the island, and insists that he do so. However, it is Mao that points out that he's still wounded and bleeding. He's still wounded and bleeding, and that blood could attract Kudan, which I still don't understand exactly what the Kudan is. But we also know that Sarah has the power of healing with her song, so conceivably, she could have healed Shin at any point in time. Her unwillingness to do so seems to indicate that she wanted him around.
I think it's more about not revealing their secrets, right? This is something that is sacred to the people and to her specifically. And she doesn't want, I think there's a fear also that they're going to get exploited, right? That these outsiders are going to take their blood, they're going to take their powers and use it for themselves. That's part of the sort of the nature versus technology kind of argument. The people with technology, whenever they see something, they exploit it. So if they knew that she had these powers, they would try to use them, which kind of fits a whole war scenario where people who are at war want to use and create weapons, right? They took the technology from the aliens, they made these giant transformable robots. Now they're fighting near at the island around this object, and so it's like, do I tell them about the stuff that could change the world, perhaps? And what would they do with it, right? If they discovered it in our blood, if discovered, they could exploit it, and then we would be exploited.
I mean, I think
There's also like,
that's a reasonable explanation, but literally my next thought indicates that she's using her mystical powers right in front of him already in sort of a way. I'll just read. It's only like a sentence or two. Also, Sarah's mystical powers called out the submarine we discovered in episode 2 inside of the first 10 minutes of episode 1, when she indicates that there is a Kudan coming from the ocean and it's strong.
yeah, well, again, I don't know if he would say that, because I guess Kudan means machines, right? It means
I
war
mean, from
war machinery.
context, I think we can
Yeah,
gather because she says the metal Kudan and seems to
yeah,
be indicating the helicopter or the I don't know what we're calling the Valkyrie.
yeah. Uh, but at the same time, she doesn't actually show any real powers. I mean, in that, at least in that scene, she's just saying stuff, and she's like, "What are you on, right? Like, are you on drugs or something? What does Kudan mean, right? We don't know because he's the point of view character, so he doesn't know. He's like,
Yeah, I mean,
we
obviously
know,
we don't
yeah,
know what it means in the moment, but it comes out to be obviously the bad guys are coming from the ocean. She's
yeah.
saying mystically.
And I don't know if she's made up her mind whether or not he is a bad guy too. I think that's part of the thing in the first episode,
Oh,
right?
he's constantly going against her wishes. You know, don't take
Yeah,
the stars from the sky. Well, I promised Mal I would. Power
yeah.
turns on. All right. Correction to something I said earlier. I said that we assumed that the Mayan people were ethnically Polynesians, but the map Dr. Turner shows us later indicates that the island is actually in the East Indies. Now, is it possible the Polynesians could have wound up in the East Indies? Sorry, is it impossible? I don't know what I just said. It's not impossible, is what I'm indicating. Some information actually suggests that the Polynesian people actually originated from East Asia. I'm just saying now, though, that it's less cut and dry who these people actually are.
Yeah, again, it's one of the things I think that the people who wrote this wanted to keep this somewhat vague, right? So they didn't want to point the fingers like, oh, these are real people there, right? But clearly they're Pacific Islanders by the way
Well,
they.
my point was specifically, if you, without bringing up a map, the
Uh-huh.
distance from the East Indies to the Polynesian Islands is basically the width of the Pacific Ocean itself. There is a great expanse of space between the Polynesian Islands and the East Indies. So
Yeah.
when
But
Dr. Turner brings the giant map up, and on the
mm,
sides it says East Indies, that is,
yeah, so we're talking about Sumatra. We're talking about that area right there. Supposed to, yeah.
yeah. So it's a considerable ways to go from saying that they're Polynesian to say that
Yeah.
they're whatever. I don't know what the people of the East Indies are actually called. Indonesians,
Oh,
I
they're more.
guess.
Yeah. Well, there's Indonesia. There are different. Depending where you
Yeah.
go, Papua New Guinea, close to Australia. Again, yeah. I have to go back and see exactly that map
Yeah,
because I probably
literally, it
missed it.
would be easier to call actual Polynesians Mayans from Brazil, not Brazil, from South America, than it would be to call Polynesians East Indian people. So that's how why the distance is.
Yeah.
I have to figure Shin's estimation of the Mayan island as a place of women, children, and old people has to be a World War II analogy of some sort. Speaking of that, though, I do kind of like the concept of something Shin believes to be a weapon the Mayans believe to be a representation of love. I would expect that sort of metaphor to be at the basis of the show going forwards. The whole swords to plowshares motif.
Pretty much. It also, I think, shows that this place, while remote, is still affected by the outside, right? Because they do say people from the outside, they took a photograph of her parents, right, with them before the parents left. That people have left to get jobs in the cities, or they join whatever armies are fighting. So while they are isolated, they're not disconnected from the world. It's almost like they're in a liminal place, right? That this whole island is supposed to be a liminal place between different concepts and ideas, right?
If you
It's
think
just
about it,
at
it's
the
not
edge.
that different from Lost. We
Very
have a
much,
lot
yeah.
of not working technology on this island. I'm air quotes island, but. All right. Sarah's vision at the end of the first episode looked like the Birdman was attacking the island and the Valkyries were fighting against it. We know that when she sings her healing song, the Birdman on the carrier starts to bleed. I have to wonder if we are getting an Independence Day sort of thing going on. That our aliens from the main show are coming towards Earth, and their proximity is activating old alien tech. If so, then I could understand how we go from a world war to a united front. Essentially the same conceit that ends Gundam 00.
Yeah. I mean, it is what's happening because you already have one alien ship that has landed, which they the ASS-1, which we know later on is a Macross. So the way I see it is that the ship landed, created a division of, yeah, I know,
No, I'm not
division of the
laughing.
country.
I'm not laughing at the ASS-1. I didn't put together that ASS-1 was the Macross. That's just
Yeah.
something you told me. I thought the ASS-1 was their first prototype in the humanoid aircraft thing.
No, actually, they actually call it out as a AFO. They call the
They
air.
use a lot of abbreviations, and a lot
That's
of them have
true.
no
Yeah,
meaning to me.
the AFO or AF0. I don't remember which is which because that's another thing. They're also testing different prototypes, right? So they're showing you how they're developing the technology as they're using it in the war. So in fact, it's actually they mentioned it early on. That's why they mentioned the ASS. Like in that debriefing, they mentioned, yeah, since the ASS has arrived, we have had different. We're looking throughout the planet to see if there are any connections, and we have the detected over technology.
Right, but when you
That.
put that into the context of that they're using this alien tech to build prototype aircraft, I would just assume that the ASS-1 was the first prototype aircraft, and they're looking for associations with other shit. Since they don't identify the ASS-1, although I love it, that's what we just keep calling it now, instead of AS-1, but I just assumed that that was the clear thing, because they don't actually bring up the alien crash thing
No, we don't see it. No.
outside of the very first opening of we saw two stars in the sky, one of the setting sun and the other one on the horizon, showing the explosion of the crash.
Yeah.
It's also an interesting note of the series here in the prequel to show that we've wasted most of our skilled people here in the war and are now running on what's left. We get the first with the implication from the Islanders, then with Roy and the fact that they all have to fly the super advanced prototypes with new people fresh out of the academy. It also implies that when the aliens arrive, they won't be fighting Earth's best and brightest, just whatever's left.
I think that might be a bit of a retcon.
Well, I don't know how many years passed between Macross Zero and the original, so that was just a
Yeah.
guess on
It
my
makes
part.
sense. It makes sense. I think it's there to show how, because what's happening here, of course, is a prequel. It's a background event, like, oh, and then it's like watching a Star Wars movie where you see the scroll, like, oh, this is what's happening. Okay, let's get to the action. This is what's happening now. That's what the prequel is all about. But it wasn't a big deal, right? It's just a background event, and then the real stuff. So, but I think they wanted to dramatize it. It's like, no, listen, this is not just some guys shooting each other in some jungle somewhere. This is a world war, right? And it's far more destructive and disruptive. Also, remember, this was released in 2002. So it's after the Gulf War and also after 9/11. So there's a different flavor of the original was in 1983 during the Cold War. So imagining, a global conflict was very easy. But now when you move to 2002, when you do have a global conflict, the so-called war on terror, it takes a different connotation to say, oh, a possible conflict
Well, I mean,
that,
it's not so different from even Gundam, right? I think Gundam Origins comes out around the same time as Macross Zero, and even in that, which is the starting of the war and the later episode. By the way, also a confusion on my part why I thought Macross Zero was 6 episodes. Gundam Origin is 6 episodes, but I think around the time that Amuro's dad shows up, Temray, uh, he's even talking about the fact that we're sending children to the front lines, and that's at the start of the war. And then you get back to the 19 well, OG Gundam. You go back to OG
1970s, yeah.
Gundam, yeah, and yeah, we've fucking children all over the front line, which is 8 or 9 months after the start of the war. So it's not so different between that and this to just say, yeah, things are gone to shit pretty quickly. All right. Obvious thing, but the Birdman relic is missing its head, and the Mayan creation myth involves the Birdman cutting off its head to make a wife for the first man. My first thought was that the head of the Birdman relic would have been the cockpit of the mech, and the wife would have been just some compatible alien to human DNA. Thus, the Mayans were mingled with alien DNA, alien DNA of their ancestors, of some guy that fell in love with an alien that eventually had to leave Earth and go back to their own kind. Essentially, an alien mine scenario, actually. What actually seems to be the theory in the show, though, is that the Birdman cut its own head off and spread a virus of some such thing to humanity, which caused us to hyper evolve, more like the engineers did in the Alien prequels. It would at least explain Sarah's whole impure blood freakout.
Yeah, I mean, again, and this is a problem you see in a lot of sci-fi shows was like, oh, we want aliens to be part of the human history, but oh, wait a minute, there's evolution. We know that as far as we understand it, evolution, humanity evolved on Earth. So it's that quandary of trying to define, okay, we've had Homo erectus, we had human-like ancestors, but only apparently humanity and their closer cousins were actually intelligent. So how do you bridge that gap from animal-like, creatures who make the jump to apparently true intelligence, as we like to say? And so in that space is where you have Halo, they remake humanity. You have Stargate SG-1, where again the aliens supposedly there's one version of humanity that leaves, and then they help evolve the existing
I
humans, and it's
love that you're coming up with examples, and none of them were the two that immediately came to my head, which was Battlestar Galactica, Earth evolves,
awesome.
humans survive, evolve somewhere else, or I guess it's a little bit more. only my experiences. Have you ever read Orion by Ben Bova?
No, I heard about him, but no, I haven't.
Neanderthals evolve on Earth, and they are the actual human species. But humanity from the future sends itself back in time, kills off the Neanderthals, and we're the survivors of the future humans in some sort of time travel paradox where we've created ourselves in a time war from the future, by the way.
Hmm. Yeah, I have to read Ben Bova's stuff. It's been a while. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stories like that, where it's like, oh no, because the question remains is where did the leap from animals and intelligent animals, I suppose,
You know,
to humans have come? Yeah,
I guess my conceit of person fell in love with the pilot, assuming the head was a cockpit sort of thing, makes it worse for the alien if you're saying that because it's like alien fell in love with a primate, had sex with a
yeah,
primate goes off and has babies that evolved
yeah,
into humans. Looks bad
yeah,
for the alien.
definitely. Power imbalance, to say the least.
Eh. Well, it just occurred to me like, well, maybe the cockpit would be the head pit, but they literally go on to say it cut its head off, and that's how. And they, Dr. Turner, I believe it was, goes on to explain like virus outbreak theory or something like that as a
Uh,
scientific explanation.
or at least a possibility. He says, it could have been like that. But I think again, there's like when even having that discussion, it's like, well, it could be that, but we're just studying this. We're not
Well,
really
they're
sure.
bringing up like a scientist who's like preeminent in their field, which we haven't seen on screen yet,
Yeah, yeah,
and it seems like they're building this other person up to be like, that's the guy. You know, he got it right. He's the crazy conspiracy guy who was right the whole time. The moon really is a spaceship. You know.
yeah. And it's a crack like an egg.
Yeah.
Evangelion also has that aspect as well. That the angels and all that stuff.
Sure. So
So
is Gurren Lagann. No one's taking
mm.
that seriously. All right. Lastly, I have no idea what to read into the fact that the scientists called the Birdman a machine that can travel through time and teleport. That's one step away in loose sci-fi from me thinking that they are going to say we sent the Birdmen back from the future and created ourselves.
No, I think it's more an explanation of superluminal travel. Remember that the title of Macross originally is Superdimensional Fortress Macross. The superdimensional is the ability to travel faster than light.
You're talking like in a gunbuster way. They say, well, I'm saying in a gunbuster way as an anime example. Obviously, that's also in the real life way that moving faster in time slows time you relatively. But I mean, um, as opposed to what they said, time travel, which is literally just that's the stupidest way to say time travel. That's like saying that we're all time traveling right now because we are.
I mean, we are. I also might be a translation.
I
Like
mean, it could be. It
yeah,
could be,
translation.
and I would hate to be ragging on a translation error for 5 minutes straight, but I'm just saying, in what we're watching, they said
Mm.
time travel and teleportation, and it just reads to me as though, sorry, I'm always going to pull back from other media. There is a series of interconnected Outer Limits episodes from the 2000s version of Outer Limits, which is essentially a class of students goes into the future, finds out that we have fucked ourselves over as a species through genetic engineering, and one of the corpses that they find on the ground is a human being with angel wings. So the idea that we like bioengineered ourselves into the shapes we wanted, but got rid of our ability to reproduce, and now they're in the future. What they thought were alien spaceships turned out to be human spaceships sent back in time to save the species.
As far as I know, actual time travel hasn't popped out yet.
Unless this is the only time, and they said this was dumb, and they backed off of it altogether.
Like I said, the whole thing with as I remember the original, the whole thing with the Birdman is pretty fuzzy.
All right. Well, that was my last thought. Do you have any other thoughts that may have propped up from this conversation?
Well, I think I mean, there's all good theories, and again, my my take this time around watching the series is more about the allegory about war and peace and primitivism versus high technology. And I don't know if the series, this show in particular, ever actually makes a point. I think it just presents it and says, okay, you guys decide. Right.
Yeah, I didn't so much pick up on the primitivism part, but very much so. It seemed like the what Shin was saying was very much the emptiness of Germany post World War II. We fought ourselves into not having anything left or people. All right. Well, if that was it, I think we should go ahead and get into the episode. But this time I wrote down the spiel. But before we get started, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment down below to feed the algorithm. On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered, uncensored, and uncut, as well as some early access stuff, you can check out the Patreon. Just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure. It's all to support the channel, just a little bit extra. At time of the month. I will say, and I'm sorry to have to say this, that while looking up thumbnail images, I was spoiled for something Sarah related, and it made me very angry.
Uh,
I think we've covered
yeah.
before. I also like the song, but I think we've covered before that certain elements of the show get covered as almost fan fiction in other parts of the show, and I
Yeah.
think that's what I've seen.
Well,
That they've.
the way
Sorry, go ahead.
the way the show deals with continuity is first of all, there's no real hard continuity. I mean, stuff carries over, but at the same time, if it's too wild or unaccepted, they just will say, "Oh, it's a movie within a movie, or it's a story within stories,
Yeah,
right?"
that.
Etc. Yeah. There you go.
Well, I'm just saying, I think I've seen something from another Macross series, which is a retelling of this,
Uh,
where Sarah gets whitewashed.
mm.
And I'm like, fuck that, I don't like that.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I feel like this Sarah is a very unique and well-drawn character. That other one, though, hashtag not my Sarah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a weapon.
I don't know, a certain anthropologist would really like that. It's a line from last episode. I also assume that was the song that she was trying to get Mao to sing that Mao said was nonsense.
To pass on the tradition to her.
Yeah. I mean, if that's true, it's kind of funny that they taught the humans a song to beg forgiveness that then also heals the birdmen.
PCS 反応は消えたわね。惜しいですね。あれは？え？もしかして。
I do also appreciate that they play around with technology to look around corners and whatnot. Because it always reminds me of the guns that have the turning around corners bit and whatnot. Because we saw one of the anti-UN forces doing it with their weapons.
異星人が人類の進化に干渉したって仮説よ。
Yeah, what we're talking about earlier.
この超人像から古代文明の成立まで解明の糸口が見つかるわ。
And now we get into the problematic ancient aliens.
Well, I mean, she literally had the Illuminati symbol drawn in her book.
Yeah.
のカドンで怪我してはならない。
ああ、いや、これは。
やはり鳥の人の秘密を暴きに来たな。お前はあの老人の娘なのか。老人？あなた、ハスフォード。
Well, that's that guy that I was just talking about. Cool, what a great metaphor. Selling your secrets for beads. No native population ever did that before.
Drawing up blood.
Yeah, that's why she's so against it. At least it wasn't for a soft drink.
お前たちは大いなる災いを招き寄せる。一つだけ教えて。あなたの血に秘められた力を。代々巫女の一族の血に伝わる聖なる歌の秘密を。
博士、サラ。
そんな。
ターナ博士、俺見ました。
見たって何を？
Get out of here, you shill. What are you doing?
Yeah.
この世を浮かせたんですよ。
え？
岩？おまけに空までウォーンって飛んじゃ
I
っ
think
た
we're fastly losing any hope that Shin's gonna be the good guy here.
Yeah.
ってね。
Or
みんなでそうやってプロトカルチャー仮説をバカにして貸して。
Well, I mean, he starts to, like, understand her in episode 1 with the whole carving sticks and whatnot.
俺たちが
And then every opportunity he gets, he tries to sell her out.
疲れてるってのは本当かもしれねえな。
シン。
ああ、なんだよ二人で。なんでもないよ。
I think he actually did it exaggerated so that she was like, "Oh, you're making fun of me," and
Yeah.
and, what happened.
To be fair, I wouldn't know that after the fact. I mean, before
Yeah.
the fact, but
Yeah.
I just mean tie that together with his, like, turning the generator on when she's like, don't do it, it'll take away everything we've got. And then turning on her when she's like, don't take our blood.
博士が島から送ってきたデータと。
そう。ASSU の血液は巫女の一族の血とほとんど同じ遺伝子構成だったってわけね。
If Ass 1 is Macross, then why does it have blood?
I think because they found aliens inside.
Okay, never mind, that makes sense.
おい、シン。
I guess they just didn't set it on a
二人で何やってたんだよ。
automatic course on its own.
それとも夜来るか？
Japanese media.
パイロットのくせに後ろ取られるなんて。
マオ、いきなりなんで。
Wow. Yeah, no, that's funny.
Yeah, he's just exaggerating how much it hurts to imply a no homo.
また聖なる巡りってやつか。
It's a culture thing.
ああ、みんなはほら。
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not Polynesian. With there's an Indian, I think.
みんな楽しそうじゃん。
Maybe Indian shows.
The limit of my knowledge is to know it's certainly not Japanese.
空が見たらなんて言うかな。
No, I think that's Hindu script. If I'm mistaken, chat, you can always correct me. But yeah.
宝物？マオちゃん、俺には？
あんたはべー。さあ、行こうしん。
ああ、おい、シン。
She's a kid, man. I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah.
To be fair, Shin still looks like he's too young to pilot a fighter, so I have no idea.
I've never seen something like that before. Yeah, I done snorkeling, and keeping your keeping your breath underwater for so long is
Well, I
not
mean,
easy.
they might be, well, if you're talking about Shin, I got no excuse for him unless that's
Yeah.
a rebreather or something, but I assume when it comes to her, they might be from one of those cultures, you know,
Yeah.
the deep diving ones.
Uh-huh. Although,
Sorry.
being
Those,
the fish people, right, kind of thing, might be more real than we think.
well, I mean, yeah, if they're writing it into the history. It's one of those things where you have to accept that the show's physics and the show's history and biology, whatever, take precedent over real.
もう息切れ
Mhm.
So you can't say this can't be
工藤少尉
because they
Yeah.
say it is.
I mean, she's even remarking the fact that he went out of breath because he's not used to it, but she was able to just, you know.
Sure, can't wait till they have gills or something.
は人間というより魚の人だよな。
でもってシンは鳥の人だもんね。
違いね。
He's
Literally
coming onto
fell out of the
him.
sky, yeah.
もの見たくない
Yeah.
もっともう
So he says that he's a fishman, and she says he's a birdman. So she's coming up to him, but he's like, I'm too old for you, basically. Which is rare anime, to be sure.
すげえ。
Well, 2004, I think. When did Japan change its laws about age or the age of majority?
泳ぎも上手なんだよ。
Because I'm certain we can go back to OG Macross and it's not going to be the same.
鳥は海を泳ぎ、魚も空を飛ぶ。
Also, kind of ties into my comment before about why can't these Valkyries go in the water?
大地と岩を結びつける絆が弱まりました。私が掟を破った時からこの災いが始まったのでしょうか。
もっともっと
There was only the one Birdman in the water, right?
好きなの。
なんだ。
Oh, its head. Sorry, I know there's a lot going on here emotionally. I'm just trying to figure out the whole head thing. It's taking me out of the moment.
Yeah. I get the impression that she saw them kissing through the eyes of the
隠れて
thing,
いてもわか
which
る
clearly a machine.
Yeah, I mean, they called it a machine. Well, the scientists did.
ま
But,
たお前
yeah, no, I mean, that entirely read as
あなたの
jealousy.
力ねこれをやったのも違うカドゥンのせいだいいえあなたよカドゥンのせいあなたたち白い人が来るまでこの島に争いという言葉はなかったなのにそれが今では
The source of all the world's problems.
人はほんの小さなことでさえ争うようになってしまった
ねえすごかったでしょ
すごいったってお前あれ一体何なんだなんで光った
I mean, it does read strongly of Razaphon,
見
though.
つけた時からうっすら光ってた
Everything powered through music and sound.
あんな風にパーって光るのは初めてそうだシンと私がキスしたせいかな
Uh-oh.
もしかしたら軍のみんなが探してるものって
Yep.
Maybe they thought they'd just be cool if we just never say what her age is.
Yeah, that would be an issue. Wait a minute. Oh,
Well, remember, we have the anti-UN subs down there.
yeah.
Plus, we've seen the UN has its observation little drones in the water, too.
無駄玉を打つな行くぞ
すげえアスカが攻撃されてるんだ
これで精一杯だって
ゼロもうちょっと
Yeah, but how's he get in from the... Oh, never mind, his hands. I forgot.
何やってんだ
At least it floats.
宇宙戦闘も想定してるんだ
Apparently,
インテークを閉じれば 2,3 分は平気だ
armor is as hard as a tank.
もう
Floats fine on
みん
water.
なのところへ戻れ
わかった
もうどうした
Now she's getting vision as well.
宝物を守って空に逃がしてやって
逃がす
カドゥンが宝物を捕まえに来るの
まずい
That's a waste of money. I mean, it'd be horrible if she died, too. I just mean,
上がってる
how much does a torpedo cost to make
まさか
versus wooden boat?
宝物を守って
守るったってエドがもう頼む
は
行くぞ
何すんだ
2,3 分なら平気なんだろ
I don't quite know why he shot the water.
ザコを沈めてターゲットに向かう割り続け行くぜ食らえ
Very inconvenient that they can fly underneath your deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was hoping some clever bastard was going to drop the anchor on them. Were those just mechs standing? Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty
Okay.
much.
Well, I guess now we know what's going on in the land war.
Okay.
That we've made these things that can't fly.
あれはあ何は半島軍のバトルだ敵を入れるな
Oh, that's what we're calling them then. Batroids.
Yeah. I mean, it's depending on the mode, you know.
I guess very specifically, whatever Roy was driving last time, these guys don't have it.
Yeah.
The ability to just pinpoint with your eyes and shoot down like some 20 missiles in the air.
Reactive armor. Mada mada!
Now we get to see who's the best.
What, Roy or his instructor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, Polanski's still in the area, isn't she?
I think she's in the island.
Oh, I never saw her leave the assault on the aircraft carrier.
No. Remember, she was talking.
They
Dude.
both flew up under the underside of the aircraft carrier, and then we went.
Oh yeah. The enemies. Yeah.
Dee Dee's perspective the entire time.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen her again. No, there she is.
俺がこいつを引きつけておくからノーラは鳥の人の片割れを
了解必ずダッシュする
よーしオッケー貴様の相手は俺だ 気をつけろ
よし
シン
サラ
マオ損傷警備しかし残弾はわずか11発気休めにもならないか PCS 反応探知逃がすものかマオしっかりして
Man, she must be scared.
攻撃のショックで対抗しているんだわ早く手当てよ触らないででも
いやマオには争いの角がついている
I mean, she's gone back and sucking her thumb, is what I mean.
絹葉
なんでマオまで傷つけるの争いになんか巻き込むの
He's just scared, apparently.
Oh, that's what I mean.
敵
She's regressed emotionally. That was certainly some get one last shot off fuckery
Yeah.
right there.
あれは
まさか伝説の
エイフォスのかけらいけない鳥の人を目覚めさせては
As per the vision. Except the vision showed the Birdman attacking the island.
応答せよ
Yeah, classic war is bad shot. Crying kid holding something.
外の人とつながりを持てば災いのカドゥンが降りかかる鳥の人が滅びの歌を歌ってしまうヌトゥクマオを頼みます
何サラお前
巫女の務め滅びの歌を止めに
サラ
どこに行くつもり
シンここは危険だアスカが無事と分かるまでどこかに避難し
Fuck off.
分かってる
This place is dangerous. You made it dangerous.
That's true.
女こいつが俺を
また坊やか
負けるか逃がすもんか
This is a clear-cut case of Shinji, get out of the mobile suit.
Yeah.
そう邪魔った海水にやられたか
I mean, you're carrying a alien artifact. Of course, it's still heavy.
But we also know she's only got 11 shots, right? So
Yeah.
it's a good fuck you moment.
Yeah.
Not dead yet. Now dead.
シュワルベドゥよりグロムリーダー機体をやられた合流求む撤退急げこの子は研究チームに貴重なサンプルなんだから
サンプル
博士エイフォスの行方
And that's why Dr. Turner's a bitch.
博士
Well, I mean, anybody who's referring to the native inhabitants as samples
Yeah.
kind of loses their humanity card. Also, now it just occurs to me. You said Roy comes up in the next season.
来ました
Or
Yeah.
one of the next seasons. You didn't mention Dr. Turner at all. Roy's
Um,
girlfriend.
マジかよこんな化け物の血を使って
It's complicated.
Not asking you to explain, just something I realized and I'm saying it out loud.
しかもブラッドタイプアルファボンベだぜ
あのミコの妹に適合する
That's what I tell doctors my blood type is.
2000キロ以内
Alpha Bombay.
まさかプロトカルチャー仮説が現実とはな
To be fair, I think she's well within her right to be pissed at you.
何すんだ
鳥の人の首をどこへやった
鳥の人の首
お前が鉄の鳥で盗んだものだ
あれは魔王の宝物だ魔王がカドゥンから守ってくれって
魔王が魔王とお前が鳥の人を呼び出したのか
違う魔王の宝があんな代物だなんて
鳥の人が目覚めれば世界が滅びるかもしれないのに
What
見つけたよ坊や。
お前は
Okay.
I mean, I don't
This
think
is the
anybody.
oh, you're screwed. Yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody responded to her call for help or backup. I'm now wondering if the Birdman waking up doesn't call the other aliens. I think I have a lot of thoughts about what signals the other aliens without ever thinking about the fact of something you said earlier, which is that there was people, or not people, they were the aliens were on board the Ass One,
Hmm.
which is to imply that they crashed there and they might have called for help themselves before they all died. I don't know. The conceit that the Birdman was a living machine is
Mhm.
just, throwing me off a bit.
I think it's again. It's supposed to signal. Uh, it's supposed to differentiate that technology from the protoculture from everything else, because everything else is very, obviously technological, mechanical, etc. And this is, oh, how do we make things different? Oh, it's biological
Biotechnology, yeah.
biotechnology. Right? It's more advanced, right?
I don't know that it's more advanced. I mean, we
But it's
haven't gotten
different.
any. It's definitely different. We haven't gotten any measure of advancement on like a technological scale. I guess the fact that it can survive. What did we say? 8,000 years
About, yeah, because
with
it's
its
ten
head cut
thousand years ago.
off.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I remember I was looking it up before because they say it sometime in the show, but I didn't make a note of it. How long ago they said, or how old they said the thing was. But I remember specifically looking up like 3,000 years ago was basically the start of human civilization or something. I can't remember what I looked up, but 3,000 was just a number that's in my head, and I know it's not the right number. Yeah, but thoughts?
I mean, they're ramping up the action, right? And now we know that both sides want this thing because it's supposed to be, it's an, everybody's looking for alien tech to fight this. The alien tech started the war, and people are looking for more alien tech to win the war, right? And again, that it's the outsiders who brought war. They destroyed the village, so people got killed, right? We don't know how many people are in this island, a couple of hundred maybe.
I'm
So
sure if you wanted, you could take a tracking shot of the island, see how many houses there are, and try and guesstimate how many people, for example, were watching the television set to try and guess how many families are there. You could make a guesstimation. I feel like, and
and
we didn't.
no more than 1,000, perhaps. It doesn't look
Oh,
like.
I was gonna guess way less than that, like in
Yeah.
100, if like capping off a triple digit number at a
Yeah.
low triple digit number.
Yeah. So, dozens of people let's get killed. They try to evacuate, right?
Well, because we also
Well,
know that there were more people that used to live there and that they left for the war.
yeah. Also, we saw like submarine mechs as well, right? Transforming submarine mechs. They can fire torpedoes and all like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and plus apparently the Valkyrie can go underwater for 2 minutes at a time,
Yeah.
which also I guess then indicates the technology that they have is one that I don't know. I was just trying to parse the propulsion technology that they must be using because we also see that it spouts purple energy of some sort.
Yeah. Although they are seen using like fuel tanks and the like, right? Oh, we have so much fuel now. So technically it's not like fusion generator and like that. It's not
Well, yeah, because when
that
the
kind of thing.
anti-UN forces are
Mhm.
flying off, well, for one, we've seen them mid-air refueling, but it also looked like the anti-UN forces had additional fuel pods because we see them
Drop
ejecting
tanks,
it.
yeah.
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 Because at first I'm like, okay, are they bombing something? No, they would have shown us the shot of the thing hitting the ground. Those must have been fuel containers, fuel pods.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, wars come to Mayan. All right, well, if that's all of our thoughts here on today's episode, I think we should go ahead and wrap up here. I have been Theta. This has been Lessons. Another episode of Macross. We will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stone-Faced Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?